Hello everyone, this is Raza Von Werder, aka Kelly Everts, telling you the story of my life. And the episode that I will now do in a few parts is called My Mom, the Animal Abuser. We had dogs at the farm. We lived at this farm in New Jersey between when I was the age of about 9 years old to 15 years old, and then from the farm we moved to Middletown. So this happened on the farm. We had a dog named Sulis. Now, no American can pronounce this name. Sulis. It's spelled C-I-U-L-I-S. He was the son of this poor dog named Lape, L-A-P-E, which means fox, which we bought Lape in the city, and mercifully one day Lape got off her chain and she ran away, never to be heard from. But she left behind, she always had litters all the time because she wasn't fixed, so she left behind Sulis. Now, across the street from the farm there was a female dog. And Sulis, obviously, like all males, was interested in her more than anything. But he was tied up. He and the other brother of his, half-brother, named Juju, who was the son of a Cocker Spaniel, and they were next to each other in their respective dog houses next to the chicken shed, and Sulis was under a big pine tree, and they both found shelter underneath the chicken coop as well as their houses. Well, anyway, so one day while I was there, I let Sulis off his leash chain, and he made a bullet run, which I didn't want him to because he was running across the street. It was not a busy street, it was a very slow street, and he ran like a bullet to see the female across the street. She was tied up with her house also. As he was running, there was this old man, he was like 90, who had this very old, like a balloon car, and he used to drive really slow, like 20 miles an hour. This old man came by at the very moment Sulis was crossing the street, and even going 20 miles an hour, he hit Sulis in the hip, and Sulis fell unconscious on the side of the road. I ran, and I was hysterical because I really loved all the dogs, and I loved Sulis very much. And my grandmother came out and to try to help, and she was going to move him, and I said, don't touch him, because I was so afraid she would hurt him if she moved him. She said, I have to move him off the road. So we moved him off the road to the side, and he did wake up, and he licked my hand. He always, whenever anything happened, like when he was fighting, and I tried to separate him from another dog, and even though he hurt my hand one time accidentally, he licked my hand right away as soon as he hurt me. But he woke up out of his unconsciousness and immediately licked my hand. We carried him back to the house. Now, my mother and I took him to the vet. The vet, his hip was broken. The vet took a pin and screwed it into his hip so that the two parts of the hip were joined together. But here's the terrible part. This is awful. The end of the screw, it was like 4 inches long or so, the end of the screw literally came out through his flesh and stuck out through his skin. The vet said this has to stay there until his hips get joined together, and then you have to bring him back, and I'll unscrew the screw. See this? Do you understand? The screw is in his hip and it's sticking out through his flesh, so it must have been excruciating for him to move. We bring him back to the house and we put him back on the chain. It just so happens that that day or the very next day, my aunt and uncle come from North Salem, New York. And I am told that I must go with them, with another child. I must go with them and the other child back with my aunt and uncle. I said, oh no, no, no. I have to stay and take care of Sulis. They cajoled me, they begged me, they pleaded with me that I had to go. I never got an absolute explanation, but the explanation, I think, is because the child that they wanted to go needed supervision. The child was quite young and needed supervision. So I was the supervisor. I was the one that was to take care of the child, see? So this child and I had to go. My mother said, there's nothing you can do for him. I will take perfect care of him. I will take him back to the vet in a week and he'll take the pin out. And you'll be back, or you'll, something like, everything she said was a lie. She said I would come back right away, like within a week. Within a week we would take, yeah, that's it. Within a week, it was all lies, so it's hard to remember all these lies. Within a week we'll take him back to the vet, we'll get the pin taken out, he'll be fine, there's nothing you can do, you have to go, blah, blah, blah. They would not let me have my way to stay. They would not, they just would not. So I went to my aunt and uncle's in North Salem, New York. A week went by, I heard nothing from Mom. Another week goes by. Another week goes by. My mother was so evil that she left me there against every promise she made me. She broke every promise she made. And she left me there at my aunt and uncle's, worried sick about my dog. Not 1 week like she promised, but 6 weeks. 6 weeks. My aunt had had enough of that visit. And I recall my aunt finally calling her and says, pick them up. She picks me up and the child. And on the way home, she gives me the brainwash, and I was so young and innocent. I believed what she said on some level, even though I already knew she was a liar. But I didn't want to believe. I didn't want to believe my mother is a pathological liar, a cheater, an abuser. I didn't want to believe that. I wanted to believe, and she was very convincing, and I wanted her to love me. So she told me this long story about how the ASPCA came and unjustly accused her of abusing the dog, our dog that was left with her, that she promised to take care of, unjustly accused her and took her to court during this time. That's the reason she didn't pick me up all those weeks, is because part of the time she was going to court to exonerate herself from abusing our dog, my dog. He's mostly my dog. To be continued.